Welcome back, everyone, to another Market Conversations. It's January 1st, 2021. Can you believe it? Boy, 2020, it was something else. It was really something else. Hi, Bill. Hi, Simon. Bit of abs in the house. Hensky, nice to see you. More folks, I'm sure, will be popping in as the notification bells go out. For those of you that are interested in furthering the reach of the show, simply grab a link, go to Twitter, retweet it, go to Facebook, put it out to your friends, say, hey, we're talking investment strategy. We're talking digital assets. We're talking a lot of stuff tonight. I've got a great guest lined up in the green room, but a couple of things I wanted to go over while I have your attention here. First and foremost, one, I've received a tremendous amount of private messages, whether it be on Facebook or Twitter, about me personally and my stance in this whole XRP thing and what was I doing and how was I going to do stuff and this, that, and the other thing. And I have pretty much kept my mouth shut publicly. And the reason being is because I don't want anybody to do what I did because nobody else is me. In other words, there's no one right way to address this as an individual investor. You need to understand where you are, what your relationship to your portfolio is, and how it will affect you. For me personally, and I'm going to disclose it publicly right now, it's no secret, I've been an XRP investor since February of 2018. So much so that it was a dominant part of my portfolio for that entire time. And I spent that entire 2.5 years underwater. In other words, the amount of money I invested into XRP, the portfolio value of XRP was half that. And although I was always kind of hanging on to the promise because the tech is so elegant and I believed in the team behind it, here 5 weeks ago, and I was thinking to myself, I caught that tweet from Brad Garlinghouse notifying us that the SEC would be taking action the next day. I thought to myself, I just spent 2.5 years in an asset that I love, but I was underwater in. And I wasn't going to spend another 2 years being underwater. So I liquidated my assets. Does that change how I feel about XRP? No. You still will not find a bigger bull. I think the technology is elegant. I think if the technology gets adoption, it'll be a real game changer. But that's an if. It is an if. And access to the world's largest capital markets, the United States, is got to be in the business plan of any asset in the digital asset space. I made a decision, and I'm happy with my decision. That money went into Bitcoin, and I'm perfectly happy keeping it there until such a time comes where I feel I have a timeline and an upside to my investment. See, one of the things that I've learned through you, the community, and through sources like Real Vision, etc., is to not get married to a project. That I need to be married to the idea of being a good steward of my money, and that managing my portfolio and producing positive outcomes is my job. It's my job as an investor. Therefore, that's why I did what I did. I'm happy to return to XRP when price points show me that it's time to do that. I still think right now, for me personally, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty. Hey, John, I see some new folks have come in. MS, good to see you. Pete Kelly, always a pleasure, young man. MS is in the house. Steve X, what's shaking? Happy New Year. So that's my personal deal, folks. It does not mean that I'm not part of the XRP community anymore, because I am. But I had to make a decision for myself, and each and every one of you have had to make your own decisions. Now, here's the thing that I will tell you that I use to gauge this by. I had to look at my average cost per token, and I had to think to myself, how long will it be under that average cost? And could I bear the loss for that period of time? For me, the answer was no. Some of you got some, hey, Wade, nice to have you. Some of you got some very attractive average cost per tokens. Matter of fact, a lot of you are still in profit right now, and good for you. That's excellent. But again, I made my decision, and I'm completely happy with it. And I do, yeah, MS, I believe XRP will return also. And when I believe that it has the clearance to move forward, I've got price points that I'm going to buy back in again. To me, buying back in at 40 cents or 26 cents or 15 cents, if the clarity is there for me to take another position, it'll mean that whatever I got in at is nothing compared to where I see it's going to go. Each and every one of us have to make our own decisions on that line. So a couple of things I want to go over real quick before I bring out our guest, Angelica, and that is this. Structuring your portfolio. I'm not talking about asset allocation. I'm talking about considering this statement. 40% of the challenge in investing is not in the actual assets you're investing in. It's understanding the tax efficiency of these investments. I say this because this digital asset space is presenting all of us with an opportunity to utilize mechanisms and processes that were only ever available to the very wealthy in the past. We're going to go over those in great detail, not just on this show, but many shows to come, because I honestly believe that once it becomes common knowledge that the secrets to monster wealth creation and preservation, they're actually not secrets. It's all in plain sight. We just need to change the way we think about money and how we interact with it. So with that being said, one last quick shout out to all the affiliate links that I've got in my little description below. It's 2021, and some of us are going to, well, all of us are going to need to consider our tax situation. For those of you that are in the US, I've got a link down to the tax bit, folks. Excellent. You'll get a discount on your product, and you'll help the channel. I also have my link to the iTrustCapital folks, as well as a link to Real Vision, which I feel is the quintessential source for financial education. So without any further ado, let me bring in Angelica. Angelica is a wonderful young lady who I caught some of her content. She's got a YouTube channel. It's called Stardust Networks. And I found her to be, well, intelligent. And she was having intelligent conversations on her channel. And I reached out, I said, you know what, I'd like to have you on because you bring a perspective and at least an understanding of the legal process from your education in pre-law, what have you. And since this SEC versus Ripple case has created a tremendous amount of uncertainty and a lot of questions in the community, having somebody who at least can look through the lens of the legal structure of things would be very beneficial for all of us. So, Angelica, how are you tonight?
I am excellent. Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to talk about this topic because I've been just in the rabbit hole the past couple weeks, working 16-hour days to create this content. So I'm excited.
Well, if you've got that much time into it, I'm sure you have dissected the 71-page argument that was filed with the Southern District of Manhattan. Walk me through the main points that you saw in this complaint from the SEC, and then we'll talk about how we feel about things. But what do you think are some of the main points that they're trying to drive home here?
So before we even hop into that, I kind of want to take the lens out a bit farther because I think it's important to consider the lens that we are looking through it. So in the legal system, stare decisis is a concept where we always adhere to the precedent. Okay, so that's why when something is decided in the court system, it is really becomes this new standard, right? And so whereas when we have this legislative process of like Senate and, congressional members, we have the executive and the members of Senate and Congress, they are being replaced, every so many years in a rotation. Whereas the judges in the courts, they have life tenure. And typically what one court decides, the other courts all fall in line with. So when something is decided in the courts, it holds a lot more power in a lot of ways than when something is decided, in the legislature or the executive, because the next executive can just come in and really overturn what the former executive has said, right? So I think that's one of the reasons that we're even seeing this go through the courts at all. Jay Clayton, the SEC, the head that actually got the ball rolling. We know he's stepping down now. He had plenty of opportunities where, Senate members had asked him specifically about Ripple. Brad Garlinghouse was tweeting about this regularly. Provide us clarity, give us, a legal structure to follow, and we will happily follow it. But you need to step in and give it to us. We can't know an unknown. So I think that's why it's important that we are using the courts. Now, with that being said, my lens is a bit different because I also come from the tech world. So we don't really have a legal structure to support the anything that we're trying to rule on in the tech world, because these technologies have been so disruptive, and truly the government, I am of the opinion, doesn't even understand what they're ruling on. So how can they even, create these decisions for this marketplace?
Well, my first question would be, what would make the judicial system any different than the legislation system when it comes to understanding the technology?
So I don't think that the judicial system does have a better understanding of the technology. I just think that here's the thing. I think it was you, right, that made the comment that you have a dog in this fight if you are not Bitcoin or Ethereum. Did you tweet that?
That was me.
Okay.
I'm guilty.
Okay. So, and I'm a big believer in that. So I work, one of the projects I have in the pipeline right now is a decentralized, very disruptive way to manage workflow. And so I look into decentralized coins all the time. I'm comparing these white papers. I need to know what tech is better. And like you said, XRP is an elegant technology. And so if there is going to be a standard set for these decentralized coins, suing Ripple is going to provide the perfect sort of lens to look at the entire community through, because the reality is a lot of these altcoins have the same unique business model that Ripple XRP relationship kind of created as, the trailblazer.
Well, everybody after Bitcoin.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm in agreement. Yes.
Yeah. Every single entity. So I want to circle back before we progress. When you talked about that courts interpret law, that's what courts do. They interpret law. Now, once rulings are passed down, you're right, precedents get set. on and they stand or hold weight. That's a better way to describe it. They hold weight in other judicial venues until a new law that clarifies it is passed. Okay, great. So if we know this going forward, my biggest question, and I have not had this answered, a wonderful federal court ruled in a FinCEN versus Ripple case that XRP is a virtual currency. Federal judge in a regulator versus Ripple. Yet that has seemed to hold zero water, zero weight. Do you have an amateur's view? Like, how do you respond to that, knowing what you know and having learned what you've learned?
Yeah. So I think that I am with you on this, because I think that we see this in more than just this sector and this industry, where we do have court rulings, but it's nuanced enough in the language and what was actually a lot of when a court case is presented, they're not just looking at, the overarching question that might have been answered. They're looking at all of the arguments that go with it. So I always say law is a lot more like geometry than we give it credit for, because with geometric proofs, right? We're looking at these things as having a set of rules that we're working for. And that is what the law does, right? They create the sets of rules that create the paradigm and the legal structure for how we operate within that structure. Okay. And so with these FinCEN, you're right, the FinCEN ruling, you would think that would be the precedent. But really what we're seeing is it's more of just, okay, this is rule number one, but we still need, the other rules answered. Okay, we need to go through the case with the SEC to make sure that the Securities and Exchange Commission doesn't have a dog in this fight, right? And they don't, in my opinion, right? Never financial advice, but they don't.
Interesting. I have a counterpoint to that. I think they absolutely have a dog in this fight.
Okay.
And it's the $250 trillion legacy capital market structure. I absolutely believe the SEC has a dog in this fight. They're called JP Morgan, Citibank, BlackRock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Maybe not so much Fidelity. Well, yeah, even to some degree, some of those also. There are a small handful of broker dealers. They're the largest, most powerful banks in the United States. They're the ones that got their hand at the Fed window, right? They're the ones that receive the lending from the Fed, and everybody else has to grovel to them. That's one element. They also happen to control all of the inbound and outbound U.S. correspondent banking, which happens to be what Ripple is here to disrupt. Yep. And these are the biggest, most powerful entities on the planet. You can't swing a dead cat in any financial regulator's office. I don't care if it's FinCEN, the U.S. Treasury. It doesn't matter at SEC without hitting a Goldman Sachs alumni who's in power. I mean, it's a boys' club. So I would take the position that the SEC absolutely has a dog in the fight, and that is protecting the good old boys club.
Yeah. So it's interesting you comment on that. Sorry.
I can't prove it.
No, it's interesting you comment on that. So like I said, I do have also roots in the banking industry, and I've seen I'm in agreement, because I think that Ripple has provided the most disruptive technology, because essentially what they are allowing us to do is to become our own bankers. We will have our own currency exchange in our hand, right? And now with all these decentralized tokens that like what we're seeing with this Spark token airdrop, I could go into the technology packed into this Flare network. It's insane, right? And what it will allow us to do cuts out the third party completely. And it is so trustless in its operation that it really does create a business structure where you don't really have to trust the people you're doing business with at all, because your collateral will be unlocked in in essentially an atomic swap back to you, because it's running off those smart contract designs that is, in the Ethereum machine. So it's pretty incredible. I agree with you.
It is incredible. There are, I can get excited about this, but I also know enough that I am absolutely okay with not being the first to dabble in that playground. I really am. I'm like really okay just kind of hunkering down to ABC investment stuff, right?
Right.
Understand what I'm buying, understand the marketplace that it's in, and make good decisions that produce good outcomes, and allow all these innovators to innovate. And when the stuff is proven, then I'm more than happy to participate. You know what I mean? Like, yes. For instance, case in point, I am a believer that I want to be paid for every asset that I own. I do not want to own depreciating assets. I want to own assets that appreciate, but I also want them to pay me while they appreciate, right? So it's not enough for me to own Bitcoin and have Bitcoin go up in price.
Right.
I want more Bitcoin.
Right.
Without putting more US dollars into the market. Well, how do I do that? Well, I can get involved in one of these things that you're talking about, but I really don't know. You know what I mean? It's kind of shady. So I use, there are platforms like Nexo and Celsius and BlockFi and what have you.
Right.
And they will pay me a return on asset. They'll give me a little bit of Bitcoin for lending them my Bitcoin. Yes, there's a counterparty risk because the asset is not in my control, my wallet with my keys. But if you do your research on these companies and you feel comfortable taking that counterparty risk, you can get a compounding reward. That is the kind of stuff so what you're talking about when flares on it's like, that's all really promising, but I don't know about that yet. I'm not completely certain. There are going to be people like you that are like, I know this tech and I feel good about it and I wish you well. I don't have anything bad to say about it.
Right.
I'll be the old guy in the back going, Angelica, how's the water?
Right.
I'll wait till it's safe to come in. Thanks very much. While I'm collecting. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And the beautiful thing about this space and the community that we're in, or at least the community I would like to be a part of, is that we all have the freedom to be any part of it, right? It's not an all or nothing thing. It's like, if you didn't own XRP, I wouldn't dislike you. I wouldn't like you any less if you were, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. We're in a changing of the guard. There's a paradigm present here that hasn't been present since the late 90s. You know what I mean? With what, the evolution of the internet. And what we're seeing here is no different than we saw with telecommunications, going from hardwired devices in your home to handheld computers in your hand. It's this dematerialization of things, and the cost savings and the reduction in friction from these things. And always in the beginning, there's bumps in the road. And that's okay. There'll be people willing to bear the brunt of that.
Absolutely.
And hats off to those people, because they're the real pioneers. I'm going to come in later in the adoption curve, but before the masses. For me, that's the sweet spot. Is there anything else you want to touch on regarding the Ripple SEC case that was an important point you want to touch before I transition us into another topic I want to?
No, and I know that you saw I did a video on it. So if people have more questions, they can always go through that, where I really did lay out the legal test one by one. So no, I think we can absolutely move on.
Right on. Well, I wanted to say real quickly, hello, King. Nice to see you. I saw my buddy Lance, Vet Pro, is in the house. And even, and I don't know if he left yet, but BZ Comedy Channel. BZ, thanks for dropping in tonight. So here was something I wanted to talk to you about because I believe you'll have some insights to this.
Okay.
All right. Oh, and hello, Uzamake. Hola, mi amigo. I am fascinated with efficiency, right? Efficiency in capital, efficiency in assets. So that's the context.
Okay.
And like if we were on the street and you said, Jerry, talk to me like it was a Labrador Retriever, right? For those that may want to know that. I want to stay legal, but pay as little friction in the system as possible. That means taxes. That means fees. That means anything to do with the cost, because I'm learning about what we call risk premium, right? And I'm learning about cost of capital. And I'm learning about these things. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want to form an LLC. And I want my LLC to be me and my children. And I want the beneficiary tree clearly legally delineated, because one of the things right now that I think is sorely lacking in the digital asset space, second party platforms, Nexo, Celsius, blah, 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 holding lots of my assets. No such mechanism. I cannot assign a beneficiary. Exchanges, same thing. Hardware wallets, same thing. You have to do it yourself. There's no legal structure yet for these type of things. So I'm thinking, build an LLC. I can structure my beneficiary tree in it. I can build a business from it. I can earn through lending the LLC's assets out. And then I can borrow assets to minimize my tax exposure and still keep the assets without, like, I want to take a loan to help my business, but I don't want to take a loan from the bank. I want to take a loan from me. In other words, I want to collateralize my digital assets and take a loan from myself and pay myself back the entire time, maintaining ownership of these assets as they continue to accrete and appreciate throughout their life cycle, through their maturation of their networks. Your thoughts, your feelings, your view. What do you think?
Okay, so I'm going to take this, it's going to relate, but just kind of try to track with me. So what if
you're going to riff for me? Go for it.
Yeah. So, obviously I'm coming from a very visionary space. So some of the things that I'm, pitching right now may or may not be in the works. But consider that every digital asset we own is just information locked up on the blockchain, right? Just pieces of little data. Now, what if I told you that every single content creator for YouTube has, let's say, a marketing exec that creates their banner and their, logo and, this package, this portfolio of YouTube assets, right? Now, what if, and this will relate to the business LLC design, what if I said that we can encrypt that file, right, that holds those YouTube assets and lock it up on the blockchain and then put a smart contract, some token design that you hold that asset ownership of it as that marketing exec until your content provider that you're selling it to, say you have, some sort of smart contract laid out that you'll pay a certain percentage over time because you're wanting to fund yourself. You're a content creator. You're not quite in a space to pay for an entire brand, development yet. But you are now given this opportunity to lock your YouTube assets up on the blockchain and pay into this fund that you've created on the blockchain with this other content creator. And when you have reached the point where you have paid that completely off, that asset unlocks on the blockchain and is sent to your private key or your public key. And now you own that asset. So the way that we're even talking about asset structures and what is an asset, cryptocurrency is the tip of the iceberg of these things. It's just the coin that we've assigned a name to, that is the information, that is the blockchain underlying structure, associated with it. But, I saw actually, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but on the XRP ledger, there's actually a way to essentially stream like content on it. Somebody actually pulled up the XRP ledger. It was an app that was built, in the ecosystem. And that YouTube, I mean, I'm calling it a YouTube video for context to give us an image into what that looks like, right? That's existent on the ledger. So what does the world look like when we can lock these assets up? I love what you're saying with the crypto. This is another version of it, right? Our assets can be anything. And when you consider that, what do we know about the tax structure? So this is where I'm going to loop it all back, right? What do we know about the tax structure of when we have it locked up in assets? Well, we're not taxed as heavily when we have our investments locked up in assets as we are when we have them in fiat cash. So how much better does the world look for content providers that are holding their content as an asset that can also bear interest possibly on the blockchain? For if you're renting out, different assets will have different unique components to them. So I think that I know that.
Not to mention factor in the already existing off-the-shelf side businesses or not direct on-chain businesses that will allow you to, for instance, let's stay with the YouTube theme. All right, I'm a YouTube channel content creator. My channel is monetized. It generates money, not much, as evidenced by the subscriber count and stuff like that. But the truth is, it does. It gets $1 here, $2 there for each video, and each time that little pool hits $100, they ship it to my bank account. Well, I know that there are companies that will take that because it's considered income, become an element of your HR department, and convert that into Bitcoin.
Yep.
And send the Bitcoin to your business's wallet, i.e. it could be one of these factors. And the same applies for anybody that has any kind of reimbursement or affiliate program that, for instance, if somebody, like if I had an online store connected to this channel, that's commerce. That's something that's happening. And fiat can get converted into the digital assets that you want and put into your online, whatever that is, your business's wallet or what have you. No, it's fascinating. The world is our oyster. All of these possibilities are unfolding before us. And for you younger folks, I am so excited for you guys. I really am. Again, I think I made my stance pretty clear. I'm going to be the old guy rooting you on in the background. Build, innovate, go for it. When you're young is the time to take the risks. Me, I'm going to try to beat the loss of purchasing power of my national currency. I'm going to beat that every year with the appreciation of my portfolio and hopefully exceed it to orders of magnitude much higher. Let me take a quick minute and shout out, hey, Tony, good to see you in the house, man. Bra XRP, good to have you. And Crypto Royer, man. I'll tell you what, we've still got a little bit of time. Any of you have questions for Angelica, roll them out. Brady will put them on the screen. Mr. Wright, this Dango Golf Pro is Philip Wright from Australia. Old, I mean, like, got into this thing 2011 and is just going to be richer than God. He's probably going to own Perth, Australia when it's all said and done. Go hard or go home. I love it. Vela Day, where can I find Angelica's channel? It's right there next to her name on the screen. It's Stardust Networks on YouTube. Just type in the search on YouTube, the Stardust Networks. She's got a tiny channel. She just started. Let's give her some support because she's got a voice in this space. She's also got a Twitter account that she's active on, which is, of course, listed right there at Stardust Networks. Follow her, say hi. Great lady. You were very gracious with me, and you didn't know me from Adam, unless maybe you did. Maybe you were a fan and never
I
said
did a little research, obviously, I research everything, but no, you seemed like a great person to talk with. I appreciated all the ideas and what you were tweeting about on Twitter. And so I was like, okay, you seem like somebody I can really connect with, and it can be, just a mellow vibe and hang out. I love hanging out with the community. I'm usually in the tech rooms or, the business rooms, and sometimes it's very dry. So this is nice.
I won't even go there. Okay. Again, you can follow her on Twitter and ask all of those questions. All right. So, Brady, before Bitta jumps in, which we're probably going to see her pretty soon, anything stand out? Come on into the studio, Brady, if you saw something in the chat you want to highlight, or anything that you've heard Angelica talk about that you want to expand upon.
Yes, but it's interesting what she was basically talking about on the whole YouTube or YouTuber holding asset thing is ironically, or at least I hope, what I've been contemplating for the better part of a year now, trying to figure out how can what Gary Vaynerchuk do, how can that translate into YouTube style, not necessarily monetization, but maybe like a redeemable asset in someone's time.
Mm-hmm.
So for her to be talking about the whole asset thing and content creation, yeah, if it takes you 16 hours to put content together versus someone who's only doing it for 1 hour,
Mm-hmm.
consuming said content may or may not be as valuable. So there's a bunch of computers will have to be involved in order to figure out who gets what, how much of it, and when. So I've kind of been sort of spinning with there's something there. And just hearing her explain that, I kind of see the shadow of a there. So I'm interested in learning as much as quickly as I can. So I'm just going to keep listening.
Yeah, you actually touch on something when you said the what is the difference between 16 hours and 1 hour? So when you look at a drawing that an artist creates, right? And you've seen, like, this is an artist when they've spent 1 hour on a sketch, and this is an artist when they spent 30 hours. And what's the difference, right? And so that's something I actually touched on in my content today, was that we have this issue where quantity online is what is rewarded, views on a channel. Well, people,
Right.
Views don't tell us anything, right? Is the content digestible? Are we actually reaching an audience that is dialed in and can add to the conversation? Because if it's just, how many robot farms are out there that are running through these nodes and stuff and watching this content too, that are not even real people?
Right.
Well, you bring up a really good point, but we also have to remember that when these platforms were structured, right?
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, Facebook, they were all built off of, I'm just going to say, hang on a second, time out. Wade, it's in your email. You just go to your email and hit the link. Okay. Behavioral economics. That's where that whole like emoji, happy face, hearty thing came from. And what you're talking about is a different incentive structure. And
yes.
That I like. Expand upon that. That's brilliant.
So how do we figure out the algorithm that brings quality content back to the marketplace? And this is interesting because Clubhouse kind of had me, working the metrics of this, because it's like I said, Clubhouse is built on exclusivity. So how do we take that exclusivity away, but still manage to make sure we're capturing quality content, right? And that depends on, what is this YouTuber saying? Is it actually factual? Like, how will we run through and we have to be careful, because there's a balance also between censorship, right? And we're seeing that with Section 230, left and right in the news right now. So we have to find that balance of how do we measure quality content, and how do we also make sure that we're not, inserting our own bias and agenda and censoring, what we deem not quality content. And how do we measure that in the algorithm? Because that's what this is all really dependent on. If we're going to incentivize, the hours put in to promote the quality product output.
Well, I would say chronological participation is probably the most true, or the truest form of gauging quality would be, okay, it's one thing to have a video that has 5,000 views, but if it's an hour-long video and it only has an hour worth of view time,
right?
But 5,000 people viewed it, means they viewed it for a minute and left. But if you had 100 people view it and 95 people, and there are 95 hours of viewing time, you had a huge proportion of the total audience stay for a huge portion of the video.
Right.
That's how I gauge the quality of my community. That I don't have. There are YouTubers that talk about digital assets investing, and they've got 60, 70, 80, 100 plus thousand subscribers. And that's wonderful.
Right.
I probably will never be that guy because I don't do the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm not a cheerleader for anything. You know what I mean? But I'm a fan of a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? I do. And most people aren't willing to learn. And my channel is around learning, becoming a better investor. So that means you have to learn a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And you made a point about paradigms and like how you have to overcome, these different thought paradigms. And one of those is that instant gratification, right? If you can't get past the neural networks of needing instant gratification, which is what we're capturing with, the flashy headlines and the data analytics ran by, big tech companies, right? That's that instant gratification. There's a dopamine dump every time a certain color appears on our screen. So we have to undo that as being the thing that catches people's eye so that we can extend their learning time.
Excellent. So one of the functions of my show is that when the audience isn't getting what they want from the chat and the feedback from who we have in studio, we have the ability to bring them in studio because of using words sometimes is a lot easier to have a context and get what you want back from in communication other than text. So I'd like to welcome to the show a longtime subscriber and a friend of the channel. This is Mr. Wade. Wade, how many devices are you logging in with tonight, sir? Wade, you're live on Market Conversations. Welcome to the show. You got a question for Angelica around Flare Networks? Wade. Okay. Wade, thanks for showing up.
Do you want me to elaborate a little bit on Flare Networks?
He wasn't specific what his question was. And if I can't get him, Wade, are you there? All right. Well, what I learned in radio is dead air sucks. It's not good. I'm going to try Wade one more time. If we can't hear Wade, we're going to move on. Wade, welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome. You got a question for Angelica?
Man, I am excited about the Flare Network and Flare Finance.
Me too.
Well, probably not as much as I am because I want to make some cash.
Okay.
And give us the rundown. Give us the gist of it. But more than that, the time frame that you think it'll take to kick in.
So obviously I am everything that I'm talking about is I did some content on the Spark token airdrop. So this is all stuff that I learned from the Flare, network design, from their website, from the Flare Finance website, from following them on Twitter. So none of this is my own content, but I can regurgitate what I'm sort of understanding. So we have to wait for the Flare network to go live, right? So anybody who is out there already trading those Spark tokens, which I'm sure you've seen the news that there are some platforms that have allowed that.
Some IOUs trading.
Correct. Those are IOUs. So it's important to understand that those are just IOUs, right? Because if we believe in the truly decentralized nature of these technologies, then unless we own that crypto, unless we have that in our possession, it's not, if you stay true to the belief system, it's not yours yet. Okay. So we can expect to see, they said that they have until summer of 2021 to launch. So I'm thinking Q1, Q2. It sounds like summer's when it's going to happen. And even then, though, according to the Flare website, unless things have changed since I last checked, you will only receive 15% of your initial distribution. And that's to protect everybody from dumping on the ecosystem and cashing out those coins, right? And then I believe there is an algorithmic design that they're using to disperse to like disperse them throughout the wallet that will be receiving them over time. So we'll all start to continue to receive those on a different interval frame. It sounds like, if I'm understanding it properly.
Over like a 28 to 34 month window.
Correct. Yes, that's correct. And it sounds like it's, again, I just know the tip of the iceberg, but it sounds like it's based on the code and how there's no bias in the release of those tokens. It's just a matter of where you fall at in the, design.
Right. What's your thought process on the use of the Flare networks and the Flare Finance is what I'm more interested in, because that's where we can make some residual income off of our Spark token. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I can only go into a little bit about this because it's hard for me to give you guys my understanding without giving some details about some things I'm working on in my own pipeline. But what I can tell you is that I think that you were asking earlier, Jerry, like, how do we give ourselves loans, and how do we finance, possibly our legacy line? Well, when we start to consider being our own bankers, and now we have these DeFi apps that are merging together smart contracts, store of value, quick payments, ridding us of all the issues with fiat, and it's locked up in an asset with this DeFi coin. Well, can I, build a smart contract design on this network that when my son is 18 years old, it unlocks? What does that look like? And how does that change if these become interest-bearing accounts? There's so much that can be done on this network, and they've released such a little bit of information about it. But essentially, XRP is just the first one that's going to exist on the Flare network. This is about interoperability, and it's about scalability, because there is no mining incentive. So when we have no mining incentive, it's better for everybody because that mining reward never runs out.
Do you have to have XRP tokens and Spark tokens to participate, or can you have just the Spark tokens to participate on the Flare Finance side?
So so it's interesting you asked that, because where my real understanding right now is it's the actual Flare network itself. So I'm still kind of researching the actual finance end of things too, because these DeFi apps, I don't want to give any information that's inaccurate at this time, and I'm still, grasping it. It's so new. They literally just today before I popped in here, I was looking over the beta test network that they're starting to invite people to participate in. But with that being said, I'm sure you're familiar with what some of these other DeFi coins are going for. I mean, some of these have, $2,000 price points.
Right. Well, I'm just very excited. I think for some reason, I think it's going to be a possibility of having as great a value or better value in the long term than XRP. That's just a personal opinion.
So let me tell you really quick why I agree with this, because I think it's like 80%, don't quote me if that's wrong, but 80% of digital assets are not Turing complete. Okay. And Turing complete means that it cannot end in a self-referencing loop. So there, with a smart contract, they have these oracles, right, that are putting information in them and completing the network. We have an issue with a lot of these other, like you said, however you want to refer to them, we'll say altcoins right now. These altcoins, they aren't Turing complete, and that's problematic because if there is a breakdown in the technology is not as seamless as when you are able to integrate this Turing complete smart contract design. But the issue with smart contracts is that there is like a sort of an open source problem with them, that when we exchange on with transactions, you can see the public and private keys sometimes of the person you're exchanging with, which could be an issue.
Okay. So does the success of Flare Networks or Flare Finance, I guess, which runs on Flare Networks,
Mm-hmm.
with the cost basis to transfer, I'm probably not using the right terminology here.
No, I
Costs a lot.
agree with you.
The cost will be a lot less to do the same damn thing as you can on other networks, like the Ether network, if I'm saying that right. So wouldn't people move over to do the same thing?
I mean, ideally, and it's not just doing, the same thing. It's also, it has this federated Byzantine agreement that it's running off of. So it is not rewarding miners. It is not incentivizing miners. So there is no, blockchain consensus that's taking place that's spitting out these coins. It's a finite supply based on locked up collateral. So these tokens, we can mint anything, on the Flare network. This is just going to be FXRP, which is going to be the XRP coin locked up as collateral, it sounds like, on the Flare network. But
Right.
we can put any asset on this Flare network. So think about when you think about people moving over to a new network, if I can exchange my FXRP instantly for any of my assets quickly with the speed, the 3 to 4 second, transaction time that we love in the design of XRP, I mean, that's really disruptive, right?
Well, it's the holy grail.
Absolutely. That's what I said. I said it's the holy trinity. You have Ethereum, Bitcoin, and XRP smashed together, and then also taking away the weaknesses of fiat money. And that is concerning. And so to get back to our SEC point from earlier, that is definitely a threat to the legacy money system.
Well, it's interesting. I'm really excited about it. I'm trying to, me and Jerry have had private conversations. I'm trying to dive into it, but I like to get other people's point of view and thoughts on it, because the more information we have, we just kind of cram it in a box and see what we can come out with. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming, Wade. Catch you soon. So, Angelica, we have another person in the back. This is what you said, your, dopamine rush thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've got my very own live dopamine rush that comes at the end of my show every week. Let's welcome in Bitta Avenue. Hi, Bitta. How are you?
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy Friday.
Good to see you. Now, I saw you. You were in the green room for a while. Your thoughts on what we've been talking about, and do you have any questions for Angelica?
Well, I'm still learning about the whole Flare network and DeFi and all that stuff. So I'm pretty new at it. So ever since Crypto Airy had talked about it, I've been very interested in learning more about it. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about it to be as excited as you guys yet, because I don't understand it yet, but I'm hoping I'll get there. Maybe we can have more conversations about it. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. I see all their comments. So it's been a very exciting time, but now with this whole SEC, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. Most part of me feels like, okay, maybe I need to rearrange my plan, but most of me feels like, okay, you're not getting out of XRP. Just leave it alone, and then you just any new money, just put it in something else. So it's something that I'm working on, and it seems like the people that are very involved in the community seem to have a very similar opinion as far as the ruling is concerned. So I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I'm still learning, but I'm not making any moves right now. Like I have not made any impulsive moves yet. So that's a big change.
Smart.
So
yeah, there's an old saying. The old saying is, when in doubt, don't act out.
There we go. We've grown, I guess. So I have not made any moves. So we've grown.
Right on. So by any chance, did you have any questions formulated?
So I was actually very excited to talk about taxes because one of my Instagram friends, me and him spent a very long time last night talking about taxes, which is New Year Eve, and we're talking about taxes. We're just
I get it.
Such exciting people.
That resonated with me just now.
So the thing that he was saying is, I guess I'll ask it in a form of a question. If you have, let's say, a Bitcoin and you wanted to sell it or trade it, is there a tax advantage trading it to Tether or other coin versus to USD? Because since it's considered, and that would be trading it under, like, before a year. Is there an advantage to trading it to another crypto or Tether versus USD?
Jerry, do you want me to am I the one answering?
It's simple. There's no advantage. In the United States, the IRS is very hostile to cryptocurrency, meaning there are no like swaps. So it's anytime you liquidate an asset, in other words, it's no longer yours in your possession. So you've sold it, you've traded it, whatever. It's a taxable event. Now, depending upon the profit and loss, how much you sold it for, what your tax basis is, all these kind of factors come into play. That'll tell you the specific liability. But yes, anytime you sell it. So if that answers, that's the plain and simple. However, are you searching for a way to leverage your asset without paying taxes?
So here's his question. I guess, like, the discussion that we had is, it's my understanding that, let's say I go from USD to Bitcoin, and that's not a taxable event. Whether and then let's say before,
because USD is just $1. If you bought USD for $1 and you sold it for $1, guess what? There's no tax because there's no profit. If I bought something for $1 and I sold it for $1, what's the profit margin? It's zero.
So far we're on the same page. If you have a USD, you traded it to Bitcoin and you hold it, there's no tax. There's no taxation. It's just, you're just holding.
Well,
Bitcoin.
It depends on the dollar that bought the USD. Don't forget that part. How did you get the USDC?
Not USDC. You went, like, from your bank, like when you go to Coinbase.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
you go from your fiat, from your bank.
Correct.
So you did your first transaction, which is from your bank account, from fiat to BTC. And then if you're holding on to it, of course, it's not a taxable event. However, you decided, since it went down, went up 50%, let's say, in 2 months, that you were going to switch your BTC to Tether. So it would be considered, that's a taxable event. But is there a difference between you doing that to Tether versus you going back to fiat USD? I'm under the impression it doesn't make any difference, but he's under the impression that if you go to Tether then it's considered a property tax. Appreciated asset or something. What did he say it was?
He's incorrect if he's in the United States.
Yeah, and then versus if you go
true.
to USD, it's considered earned income versus the other one is appreciating asset. And I told him that is not the impression I'm under, so I wanted to make sure I understood that. It gets taxed the same as far as I'm understanding it, right?
There's no okay, so leave out specific stuff. US dollar buys a crypto, non-taxable.
Right.
You sell that crypto for anything. You trade it for another crypto. You sell it for US dollars. It doesn't matter. The minute you get out of that crypto, you got a taxable event. And what you need to understand is your cost basis, which is how much did you pay for it and how much did it sell for. That's one factor. The other factor is in what chronological period did this happen? Did it happen within 11 months, 29 days? Or did it happen 366 days or longer? Because that's the delineation between short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains. And they have two different taxation percentages.
Let's say it's all under a year. So is it considered earned income or is it considered capital gains? And whether you go to USD or the other one?
Short-term capital gain. Now, the same would be true if you had a crypto, right? Let's say you put one Bitcoin on Nexo, and it was earning you more Bitcoin, right? Compounding your return on asset. And you don't want to touch your Bitcoin, but you'd really like to get your hands on some of the Bitcoin that they're sending you in the form of interest, right? If you turn that into US dollars or traded that Bitcoin for some other digital asset, now you're in what they call dividend income or income dividend, interest. So interest, dividend income is taxed no differently than your normal income tax. Okay.
So that's the one thing that we were going back and forth about, because I told him if it was I would love it if you go to Tether and then, back to another crypto and then go back to Tether and you get taxed less than if you went to USD. Everybody would do it because, why would I want to go to USD if I have the option of being taxed less if I'm going to Tether or another crypto? But I didn't want to say that definitively without and then give them the wrong information. So, but that clarified a lot of stuff. So thank you.
Right on. Well, what's interesting is that through your questions, it's not like you're the only one that has them or your friend is the only one that has them. So many of us have these. I want to take one quick second and welcome XRP Tacos and CKJ Cellmate. Good to see you, brother. Nice to have you guys in the chat tonight. I also saw Crypto Airy. Airy, great that you chimed in. And I don't know if you saw it, but Airy put a special hello to you, and we put it on the screen for a minute. So I wanted you to know she acknowledged you and was cheering you on. Oh, there it is right there.
Hi. It's good to see you again. I've learned quite a lot. Like, I follow her religiously, as you know. So.
You know what? It's kind of funny, and I don't have anything against anybody. But I have found that over the course of the last year, I don't follow YouTubers anymore. I'm devoting my energy towards real vision, like trying to really understand math and the economy and investing. But I don't miss Crypto Eddie's videos. She keeps me in the loop. And I have found that between my her and my dabblings with digital asset news, I don't need any other video sources of news. I got Twitter, I got those two people, and I can direct the rest of my time to actually learning about macroeconomics, right? Monetary policy, fiscal policy, understanding inflation, whether it's here or there, risk premiums, cost of capital.
I also really enjoy her fluff stories too. Those are like my favorite is her fluff stories on top of the education part. So
right on. So is there anything you want to direct towards Angelica?
I think she covered most of it. Like, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about like her perspective and like what tax advantages have you learned about that you're planning on using, I guess, moving forward. Like, what advice would you have?
Yeah, taxes are going to be interesting this year. I think we all know now, obviously, that it's going to be on the front of our 1040, right? So it's definitely different than it was last year. And the years before that, it was much different when we were in the bear market and nobody cared about crypto. So, I've been I'm with you, Jerry. I've been looking into how do we mitigate risk. Obviously, even in the markets, because I also dabble in traditional markets, even in traditional markets, even when you're having capital gains on, playing stocks or whatever, it's a lesser percentage than what you are taxed in your income tax when you take a paycheck home, which is kind of crazy, right? I love it, but when you consider the leveraging of the American people right now, right? That income tax is a real point of tension. So I'm with you. I've been looking into what are ways that we can also recycle our assets, within the time constriction of a year, right? To make sure that we're moving them around. And I think what I'm just trying to capitalize on is moving value and assets around and keeping them very liquid so that they're never in one place for too long. And just there are creative ways that you can do this and still be legally compliant. And that's kind of the most I can say on that one.
Right. Okay. Well, it's a great topic to dive into. Two things. One, Crypto Ice is in the house. I haven't mentioned him yet. Great to see you. And this question from Shavamofo, I'm not sure if it was asked. It's reported the SEC is running a node on the ledger. This is the XRP ledger. Are they still running it? I mean, with the lawsuit and all. Do you know?
Yeah, I have a little bit of insight into this because I've been following this. It is my understanding that the node is still running on both Bitcoin and XRP. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe you are correct.
Okay.
I have another tax question, I guess. So for people is it illegal to realize your gains to offset your taxes knowingly? Is it illegal, or is that like, can you do that within like less than a year? Because I've had conversations with people where they said if you are doing it on purpose, it's illegal.
Well, I mean, obviously you're not doing it on purpose. You're investing in business and opportunity zones. And that's what I mean. You have to really understand the legal parameters of this. So that's why you always talk to a tax lawyer, a blockchain lawyer. There are blockchain lawyers. I consult with blockchain lawyers, right? And all of these different things have our legal system doesn't talk to itself the way that it should. There are plenty of laws on the books that override if you really get into the legal code, they don't make sense together. And we see this in our criminal justice system all the time with the way the prison system is run. Okay. So you're looking at it, you're like, this doesn't make any sense at all. So that's just when you start to get into tax law and things like that, you will start to see some of these similarities where our legal code is not actually as dialed in as we think it is either.
No, it isn't. It isn't. There was,
it's really confusing.
I'm sorry, Bitter, go ahead.
Oh, no. I said it's really confusing,
Well, that's one of okay, so shameless plug, affiliate link to TaxBit below. These guys will, through their APIs, collect all your stuff, optimize it, spit it out to you for $25 a year. You take the 1099 that they prepare for you, you take it to your E.F. Hutton or your H&R Block or your mom who does your taxes for you or whatever, and you attach it with your taxes and it's dialed in and done, no weirdness.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You can't beat that. And the fact that they can optimize it for you, they'll take all the data and legally frame it in such a way to give you the most advantageous position that you could legally have, as opposed to you trying to guess what the best legal structure to frame your 1099 crypto submission with your taxes. So plug in the description, shameless plug. I'm not afraid. I am a customer of theirs. I don't affiliate myself with anybody I'm not a customer with. So I want to give you guys an opportunity for final thoughts, but also this is my way to say, Brady, get ready for final thoughts so he can prepare his final thoughts, because we do final thoughts here on the show. So Bitta,
Yes.
your final thought.
Final thought is I'm gonna be talking to more people about the whole SEC situation lately, so I can rearrange my plan. And I actually had an Instagram live with Noah last week.
Excellent.
Which was great. A lot of my followers really enjoyed having him on there and had asked him questions and stuff. So I'm hoping to have more of you guys come out, and I need to rearrange my plan. So here we go.
I think that's so great you had Noah on your show. Angelica, your final thought.
I'm grateful to be here with you guys. It was fun to hang out and just chat with the community. I love connecting. And also, Crypto Eerie is one of the first people I followed on Twitter. So I was excited to interact with her as well.
She is an absolute gem. All right, Brady, because I never know which device is the device for you. Angelica, thank you. I'll see you in the green room in a couple of minutes. Brady,
Yes.
final thoughts, baby. Let's
Final thoughts.
start 2021 with a Brady gem.
Oh, well, now that's all the pressure I need to lose my concentration. I would say, aside from learning, which is kind of a theme with all my gems, because if you're not learning, you're either moving sideways or slowly declining. And Nick had mentioned something, I think it was it was this evening's most recent stream. And he hit on it so well that I didn't even know it was a problem in my head. And it had to do with looking at the price of Bitcoin as $2.94 or $2.92 and imagining it growing from that number to $10 or $50. It's a lot more conceivable in our minds to think of it that way. And lucky for us, that's actually how hedge fund managers and money managers and the like already think. Like in the options market, each one of your options is 100 shares. So their premiums are $1.20, $1.30. But then you add the extra zero on it, and it's 120, 130. So we're kind of coming at it from the other end. And all I can do is say, study up, because it's an opportunity that doesn't make sense until you realize the perspective you'd need to have in order to back the truck up and collect as many Bitcoin as possible. Because there's really no other way to look at it other than that. And maybe a month ago or a year ago, I don't think I would have had that view. But I also wouldn't have thought I'd be selling all my XRP and never thinking about it and its ups and downs and, having that facet on my portfolio. I just thought, hey, I think the price is going to go down. Reasonable evidence would suggest so. My cost basis isn't too far off from where it is. Why not? Mm-hmm. So I started with 10%, waited a day, and felt better about losing the rest. And we all make our decisions off of, different reasons. But if you're looking to other people to help you make the decision, it may not be the best decision for you. So my goal for this year, and hopefully Jerry's going to help me with this because it's going to require some intricate math. Figure out the new capital that I got for Christmas, Christmas cards, this, that, and the other, and match it with the options. What are they called? Now I have to come up with the technical term. The covered calls that I sold out in December of 2021. The cash from that is going to be coming to me soon, a year from now. So I kind of have capital at two ends of a time period. How can I buy the most Bitcoin now while being safe, knowing what I have now and knowing what I'll get a year from now? So think in terms of years and small dollar denominations, I guess, is my story.
Well, in your case, Brady, you're young and healthy. I would strongly consider selling a kidney, a large portion of your liver. The liver will regenerate, so it's not like.
I mean, I do have two lungs, so that the power of two body parts.
You only need one lung. So we got lung,
Exactly.
Kidney, a big portion of the liver. Dude, you'll be rolling in Bitcoin. Okay, Brady, I'll see you in the green room. I'll see you in the green room in just a minute. Hey, folks, 2021 is just starting. 2020 has been turbulent in many ways. It's impacted us emotionally, financially, some to the good, some to the bad. A lot of lessons this year. But I'll tell you one of the things that really gives me hope looking forward. The dream that I had when I started investing in digital assets that was truly just based on speculation and white papers is formulating into a real world industry, an actual asset class, and this market is growing up. And the truth of the matter is that we're just beginning. It is just the beginning. I want you to keep this one frame of reference. We approximately have a $770 billion overall digital market for digital assets, but we're going after $250 trillion in legacy capital market instruments such as bonds, stocks, and investable commodities like gold. Not to mention all these subsequent, or what we would call auxiliary investment vehicles. The addressable market truly is all the money. It's a pretty big pond to be swimming in, and we're going to be there pretty soon. It's going to come in waves, and there'll be some ups and there'll be some downs. There'll be some court cases, and there'll be some victories, and there'll be some losses. Keep your head on a swivel. Continue to educate yourself. Continue to be open-minded and be aware of your frailties. I'm going to work on my biases and understanding how my biases are influencing my decision-making process while I continue to increase my financial literacy along the way. Folks, I'm looking forward to an incredible year moving forward, you guys. I want to thank you for all of your absolute support. Hey, Pedro, mi amigo! And just let you know how much I appreciate you. If you could be so kind as to make sure you've hit the subscription button and the notification bell, I get extra points from YouTube, as well as the like button, and leave a comment. Leave a comment. We love engaging with you folks. So until next time, from everybody that participated tonight and myself in Costa Rica, Pura Vida.